So, welcome to episode 3 of our awesome podcast, which is called
Sensible Ramblings.
Sensible Ramblings. I cut you off. Go on.
It's Okay. So, to begin, I want to tell the story that happened to me at a haunted, I guess it was a haunted forest.
That mask is ridiculous.
What?
Sorry.
Why?
Go on.
I'm wearing this in the spirit of, Halloween, of fright, of fear.
Loot crate.
I blame you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the story. We were in this haunted forest, and there was this dark tunnel that at some point, after going through many scary things like zombies popping out of the ground and chainsaw people chasing you through mazes of hay bales, we got to this really super dark tunnel. And we knew that, of course, being a haunted attraction, something scary is going to happen inside of this dark tunnel. And it was like a long tunnel. It was like we could die in this tunnel and nobody would even find us.
How old were you?
I was probably 12, I would say.
Okay, I wasn't thinking this was just last October.
No, I was so afraid of dying in a haunted thing. And so we were with a group of friends. We were all sort of standing in front of this dark tunnel in front of us. And we were poking each other, you go first, you go first, you go first. and none of us wanted to because we were afraid of what might be in the darkness. And then one of our friends, whose name was Caden, who was kind of this crazy ambitious person, was like, "Oh, I'll do it." And we're like, "Oh, he's so brave!" And
He's the man.
But this is how he did it. He went back as far as he possibly could, and just got a running start, and went, "Yeah!" And he just just booked it through. And what was interesting is we heard this random shuffle, bang, 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 and then him hit the other side of the thing because the tunnel went, and then it curved. So
Nice.
he ran past these people, and we heard the people that again is surprising go, "Oh, whoa, he's gone!" You know? And then we heard the smack of him hitting the other wall, and he's like, "It's fine, just hurry." And so that's kind of where I want to start is talking about the idea of fear and how fear can be a catalyst and it can propel something, or it can be a paralytic and hold you in place and make you go, I don't know what to do, I can't move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so that moment of decision in front of the dark tunnel, which could be a case of basically anything, and how you sort of wrestle between how to make fear a catalyst or a paralytic.
Yeah.
And in our context of art or creativity or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So do you guys have an example of a similar sort of experience where you guys were doing something crazy or something and that sort of kind of process happened?
So, on the ballroom team one time, in our Latin medleys, we have the intro to it has a lot of acrobatic stunts that are quite crazy and very stressful. And my first year on the team, one of the first things I had to do of the week of rehearsals was run up a staircase of 4 or 5 guys on their backs, just dunk, 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 and then jump off and dive.
So you get a lot of air.
Yeah, so you get a full-blown
staircase.
running start from off stage.
Right.
Run up these guys who are crouched down at different levels, and we just basically step one foot on each back, and then dive off the end, and then try and hit a cool pose.
And do a ninja roll out of it.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the first thing of rehearsals, first thing we do. So
Yeah.
we're all super intimidated, being on team for the first time. This is the big day, set of three-week set of rehearsals before we get going for the year, and huge acrobatic stuff. And at the end of the day, it really isn't that big of a deal. It's oh yeah, run up something and jump off of it. It's no different than movie stunts or anything else we've done. But for whatever reason, that had psyched me out a lot. And going and doing it, because when you step on something that when you stand on stairs, they don't move. But when you step on a person, they kind of...
They squish.
They squish a little, yeah. Especially somebody who's, huddled down, as strong as they are, just mass.
There's a bit of give,
yeah. And it's a lot of uncertainty within every step. And I hated doing that for the first... I don't know how long it was, but eventually towards the end, a good 2 years later, I remember it was actually my last show this last summer, and I was thinking about it was the last number of the show, and getting ready to start again. First one, like I just beeline it out and run, and at that point I was remembering the rehearsals that all had happened in the previous years, and remember being terrified and hating that part. I would rather have done the whole show twice through than do like this whole thing once.
10 seconds.
Yeah, it was just so stressful. But at that point, I had done it so much that it became fun. And any weird variables that would happen throughout the year after that, I remember looking and going, like one guy, somebody was hurt, so I couldn't step on him, so then I had to like change the muscle memory of it like mid-step in order to do something. Another one that's like, I had slipped, and one other one, my shoe came untied, and like basically ended up doing like front flips out of this and doing different things every time to like compensate. Where in the beginning it was just, this is what's there and it's overwhelming, and later on it was like any variable and any curveball that would happen just became like, ooh, this is interesting. Like,
yeah, see how this goes.
Yeah, that was a lot of words, but that kind of is what has come to my mind with that, as far as facing fear and pushing through something. And
so was the moment when you were like, okay, I have to do this because it's part of a team and everyone's watching. What was that thing that sort of like pushed you forward? Was it just peer pressure?
I think it's very much the expectation. Not so much peer pressure, but that's what the expectation is. Like, you're on the team, like you've been cast in this role, you have to do it.
So it was like something to live up to, basically.
And it's just like, you've been hired to do this job, and if you can't do this job, like, you know, we're unhiring you, essentially. And so that kind of, the expectation was just sort of like, well, you just got to do it.
There and do it.
Yeah, that's what's being asked, so that's what we're gonna do. And you know, it is a little dangerous, but like everything was rehearsed well enough that it was okay. You know, I bonked my head on the ground a few times, and I'm sure bruised some people after stepping on them. But
interesting. So I mean, that brings up a very interesting thing of like having something that you have to like account for. Like peer pressure is an interesting thing because both of our examples of like this Halloween maze and your sort of team thing are like with people, and so if you weren't with those people, it would probably be a different experience.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Like doing a haunted maze without a group of friends would be a little bit weird, you know.
It's tough to say if it would be easier or harder.
Yeah.
You know, because it's one of those. It's like, I would have liked to have been able. This is the first time we had to do it. It's just like, okay, this is what happens. You ready to go? Do it.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to what? Okay. And then like, I remember the first time I did it, I had to like false stop. Like, whoa, okay. It's like running and jumping off an edge of a cliff. It's just like, oh. Okay, all right, one more time, and then, and then go do it for real.
Yeah, for real.
And I would have liked to have been able to do that in like the comfort of my own space, somewhere where I felt safe and alone or something like that, where I could just kind of do it myself, crack my head open by myself, you know.
Because that's the safe way of doing it.
That's the safe way of doing it. But like for some reason, like that was way less scary than like 18 other people in the room going like, "Come on!" and they're all just as nervous because they're all brand new and like.
Yeah. Okay, so we've sort of set up this thing of like in these cases, the group peer pressure has forced sort of a catalytic sort of thing of, well, okay, I'll do it. You know, have there been any experiences where you haven't been in a group where you've had to do something that's been really difficult, and it's sort of like you had to like psych yourself out, and maybe even to the point of I don't want to do this or something like that.
Asking people on dates.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Because you get in your own headspace. You're like,
absolutely.
This'll never work.
There's no way she could possibly like me.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Look at this.
This is the money maker. Yeah.
This is the rejection maker right here.
Welcome to Justin Hemsley School of Girl Repellent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
anyways.
Did you, so like because you've done like a lot of different music, like singing vocally, doing solo stuff.
Yeah.
And then like performing in like orchestras and choirs and ensembles.
Yeah.
And have you found that there's like a different process in performing related to fear?
Performing's really not a thing for me. Like, there's never been really any fear. Like, I think
he's a pro.
I don't know if it was last episode or an episode that we shot but didn't do. But
that's never happened.
If we talk about it twice, then sorry. But there was the when I was really young, there was a little bit of like and to me, it wasn't even like that I was afraid of the audience sitting out there judging me. It was more just like, okay, I got to focus into the music. And so I just kind of deaden, like face-wise, body-wise, and just kind of, it was like violent stuff. So I just play the stuff. And I think it was kind of related to fear. It was kind of,
sure, without
me really realizing that I was afraid of the audience. I was kind of afraid of the audience, but it just never. And so that was only when I was like pretty young. And then by the time I got into like high school, I was pretty fine with performing just about all the time.
But it is kind of risky for a performer to go beyond the notes and the technique.
True.
Right? To say, I'm going to rip my heart open and share something really special with you because it might not be reciprocated. And that in some ways is related to fear, the fear of risk, right?
Yeah. Well, I always found, I think my source of fear within music is in the writing of it. The performing of it, a lot of times, is just, you're just rehashing what someone else has done. So as long as you do it well, and everyone likes it, okay? But when you're getting your own song out there, you're just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's do this anyways, right?
Bad material anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
I wrote this.
Yeah.
That's why it sucks.
So, and I have great beginner's luck. Like the first thing ever that I do of anything is always like really good, and then the second time is just trash. so that always kind of gets in my head after that. Is like, okay, well, I know I had this great thing, and maybe I should just quit while I was ahead. So,
yeah. There's this interesting thing that you say that because two things. One is in this book, which is called Art and Fear, which I like a lot. There's this quote, and it will take me too long to find it. But basically, there's like a musician who goes in to speak with like a guru master, and he's like, I have this really hard time because every time that I play whatever his instrument was, like a violin or something, like it's always better in my head than I can do it. And the master's like, well, do you think that ever changes? You know? And so instead of it being like, I'll never live up to this, going, well, that's just reality. Then uncertainty becomes kind of like, oh, okay.
The norm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that for me, like, there's the fear of uncertainty is, for me, kind of like a paralyzing sort of thing, because I tend to calculate risk a lot and say, okay, so I think it'll work out this way, and if I think that it will, like, I can't see a way through all the problems, then I won't sort of just take that first step and go with it.
Yeah.
And so kind of the fear that things won't work out as well as I want them to.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of an interesting deal.
That's something too, is that the uncertainty and sort of the initial reaction, the first time you feel it, like it is like, that's a scary, like almost immobilizing moment. But then I think once you probably get used to it, or you come to like learn to live with uncertainty or something like that, I think that could be the point. That's when you start to kind of thrive and live with fluid variables and stuff. That's true. That.
I think that's part of why this other quote that we read and then didn't actually, you know, it's not going in the actual one. We tried starting
this episode 3 times.
They were
all horrible misfires.
They're really funny. We'll probably post them, but but so the thing he read, it's talking about how if you're afraid of yourself, you won't do your best work. And if you're afraid of what other people are going to think of your stuff, you won't do your own work.
Yeah.
And where was I going with this?
But it kind of goes to the uncertainty thing that we were discussing. Like, if you're uncertain about how your ideas will be received, then you're going to mitigate them or pad them a little. Yeah. And if you're uncertain of, like, you're not in agreement with your own sort of creative ideas, you're like, oh, that is what I think, but I don't know if I should say, do whatever, then you're kind of making choices that are actually somebody else's project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not really coming from you. It's like, came out and then you're like, oh, I'll just revise that to be safer.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a quote from, and I have no idea who said it or where it came from, or maybe I made it up. I don't know.
Let's pretend you made it
Let's
up.
pretend I made it up. I'm that profound.
Would that be plagiarism if it is someone else's?
That's the thing. I
Only
don't
if they
actually...
watch this podcast and sue us.
True.
So, go on, Justin.
Not worried about that.
Whoever
can't be
said this,
afraid
I'm
of it.
sorry. It was something to the extent of, if I'm not in love with something that I'm making, how can I expect somebody else to love what it is? And so if you're just like, that'll often happen with a visual effect, something, or like an editorial thing or something in a movie that I remember doing as kids, and just being like, well, that works, and I just sort of like, maybe somebody else will like it.
Yeah.
When in the reality it's like, if I don't like it and I don't think that moment was cool, like, I can't expect anybody else to. And I've kind of tried to use that as a rule to make things where I'm like, if I'm uncertain about it, then it's not right yet.
Interesting.
If I'm making it. And maybe that means that just I need to sort of figure things out, and other things could change to like around it that would make it feel whole or cohesive, or it's just like, I need to keep working on this. So I try to make something where I'm like, oh, I do like that, and this does feel right, and I think that's cool. And if other people hate it, then so what? But I enjoy myself doing it.
That's cool. We should talk about that in the second part, sort of what he was just saying about how it feels right to you, because it's been about 10 minutes, so we should break and then come back with part 2.
I'm not going to hold up my fingers.
Come on.
I'm a rebel.
It's like
Hey,
Ghostbusters.
If I'm worried about what other people think of my art, then it's not my own.
Hipster.